The time has finally come and I can't wait to show you all my first build for season 22. This build is going to let you have a Threadling army by your side all the time, and with a bunch of changes that have came to Strand and specifically some of the Warlock aspects with season 22, this build has honestly risen to the top and has even become one of my favorites. I have personally been running this in every form of content since the season launch and it holds up perfectly. I'm really excited to get into this build for you all, but really quick, I want to say thank you all so much for the most recent support on the channel. My artifact video I posted the other day did extremely well, and I'm pretty sure I gained like 300 subs just from that one video, so I seriously cannot thank you all enough. And if y'all want to see more videos like this from me, be sure to consider subscribing. It's free and it really does help the channel out. Also, if you'd like to see an in-depth infographic of this build, be sure to head over to Mobalytics. I will link everything down below, and over there you're going to find a ton of builds from a variety of creators, and you will even find the one I go over in today's video. So if you'd like to read along over there while I explain everything in the video, again, all the links are down below. All right, so jumping right into it, I think we should first start off talking about all the ways that we can create Threadlings, since that is going to be the main part of the build. First off, we do have our weapon, which does have the hatchling perk on it, so when I get precision final blows, I can make a Threadling, or if I get rapid non-precision weapon final blows, I can also make a Threadling. Hatchling can come on almost every single strand weapon that's currently in the game, so definitely look out for one of those. But if you do have the ability to get a Rufus's Fury crafted, this means you can make enhanced perks, and Rufus's Fury also comes with demolitionist, so when you get kills, you would generate grenade energy. Generating grenade energy is obviously extremely strong because we're going to be taking the Threadling grenade. So when you throw this, it's going to break into 3 Threadlings that will go out and track down enemies. So now you're at 2 ways of making Threadlings, and your weapon can even help out with generating them even more. Now the third way we're going to be able to generate Threadlings is with our aspect Weaver's Call, which is cast your rift to weave 3 Threadlings and deploy any Threadlings you have perched. So what this is going to do, now when you place a rift, you would generate 3 Threadlings just like your Threadling grenade. But on top of that, if you have any perched Threadlings, which happens quite a lot with the amount you're making, you will also deploy them alongside that, and you can have a total of 8 Threadlings coming out at one time. And then our final way of making a Threadling is going to be with our exotic, the Swarmers, which has the exotic perk Swarmers. Destroying a Tangle spawns a Threadling. Your Threadlings unravel targets that they damage. We'll get more into the unravel part later once we start talking about all the buffs that we're going to be given to our Threadlings, but just know that now destroying a Tangle will also make a Threadling. So now that you know the 4 ways that we're going to use to make Threadlings, let's start talking about some of the buffs that Strand did receive that really helped out with this build. First off, overall, Threadlings got a 30% damage increase, which helps a lot with the potency of this build. You can now run this in higher end content, and your Threadlings will actually kill red bar enemies and do a hefty chunk of damage to things like champions. But on top of that, Tangles also did get a cooldown reduction from 15 seconds to 12 seconds, so you'll be able to spam Tangles a lot more often. Tangles are going to be extremely good with this build because not only are they going to be spawning Threadlings, but Warlocks also got another buff that buffed their aspect, the Wanderer. So if we actually come over and take a look at the Wanderer aspect, it now reads, Tangles you throw attach to targets and detonate into a suspending burst. Destroying a Tangle creates a suspending burst after a short delay. Threadling final blows create a Tangle. So now that the Tangle cooldown is going to be 12 seconds, you can use the Wanderer a lot more often, but on top of that, you can now shoot the Tangle to actually create this suspending burst, and you still also get the benefits of your Threadlings being able to make Tangles, which does synergize extremely well with your Swarmers being able to make Threadlings with Tangles. As a TLDR of that, your Threadlings can make Tangles and your Tangles can make Threadlings, and then every time you destroy a Tangle by throwing or shooting it, it makes a suspending burst now. The suspending burst also did get a little buff. It's a little larger now, and overall, just being able to shoot these Tangles all the time and make these suspending bursts, and also alongside making Threadlings, it is very, very strong now. This aspect pretty much went from being the worst thing in the game to, in my opinion, being up there with some of the best. But since we're on the topic of buffs, I do want to take a look at some ways we're going to buff our Threadlings in our kit alone, outside of just the number increases that everything else got. So to start off, we are going to be taking the fragment Thread of Evolution. So Threadlings travel farther and deal additional damage. This is going to be a no-brainer to take. Your Threadlings just can travel further now. They're going to be able to hit enemies from a longer distance away, and of course they will also deal that additional damage, which you want to do so you can one-shot all these enemies. Now we also can go back over to our Swarmers, which again reads your Threadlings unravel targets that they damage. So what this is going to do, now every single time your Threadlings deal damage, you will apply the unravel debuff to them. I like to view unravel as another companion, kind of like the Threadlings. They don't do a lot of damage, but they basically stick into the target, and then every time you deal damage, they will start spreading that debuff around, and it becomes this crazy chain reaction of just additional damage going on. And if you do apply this to a boss, it is just free damage, so it's something that's very cool. But this also does help out with just general at clear, because since you're going to have Threadlings Threadlings everywhere, you also are going to have Unravel everywhere, which also spreads. And again, it just makes this chain reaction of green absurdity, and you can just barely see your screen at some points. I know some people do like to take Verity's Brow with this build to increase your Threadling grenade damage, but in all honesty, I still prefer Swarmers overall, just because you can make those Threadlings with the Tangle kills alongside also making everything unravel. So in my opinion, if you are going for a Threadling army build, I think Swarmers is still for sure the way to go. But now let's round out our subclass and talk about some ways we're going to be able to survive and even have the ability to generate more Threadlings. So to start off with survivability, I would highly recommend taking Healing Rift for your Rift of choice to proc Weaver's Call. This is just going to be good to regenerate your health. If you want to take a Power Rift, you could, but if you want more survivability, go with Healing Rift. The main way you're going to get your survivability is from Thread of Warding. So picking up an overpower grants Woven Melt. Woven Melt actually did receive a 5% nerf. It went from 60% to 55%. Don't worry, it's still extremely strong, as you could imagine. And now just every single time you pick orbs up, which is going to be all the time, you just have this 55% damage reduction for 10 seconds that will reproc on every orb pickup. This is one of the strongest strand fragments in the entire game, in my opinion, and it's what really allows you to take strand builds into in-game content. Now, our next fragment is going to be Thread of Rebirth. So strand weapon final blows have a chance to create a Threadling. This was pretty self-explanatory. Now you just have another chance to make a Threadling. Obviously, your gun alone is already making Threadlings, so now the gun can just make 2 Threadlings from time to time. And then for our final fragment is going to be Thread of Generation. So dealing damage grants grenade energy. Again, just like our weapon, when we get kills with it, we get grenade energy. But on top of that, now just when we deal damage with everything in our kit, we will also generate grenade energy. This did get nerfed slightly. It is still extremely strong. From the amount of playtime I've had with this build, you get your grenade back almost instantly, and that is just another way of being able to spam grenades. You're constantly making with your gun, you're constantly spamming your grenade, you're constantly shooting tangles making these Threadlings, and on top of that, you can also spam your rift from time to time to make even more when you need them. And then the cherry on top of everything is the fact that Needlestorm is an extremely good DPS super. It is a one and done super, and if you can hit all the needles on one boss, you will do a chunk of damage. On top of that, you do make Threadlings, and since Threadlings did get that 30% buff and you're running Thread of Evolution, it inherently buffed the super as well to do even more damage now, and it is crazy good. Also, Arcane Needle, not a terrible melee. You get 3 charges and you can unravel enemies, but your Threadlings are pretty much doing most of that work. But all right, let's get into stat distribution. First off, 100 resilience is definitely mandatory. It's 30% damage reduction on top of that 55% from Woven Melt. Become very tanky. Next up is going to be discipline. You definitely want 100 discipline because you want to spam that Threadling grenade as much as possible. This will just help out with the further generation of it. Then if you can get to 100 recovery, that is going to be your next triple 100 stat, because this will let you spam your rift even more often to again spam Weaver's Call for even more Threadlings. And now for weapons, we've already talked a lot about a strand primary weapon with Hatchling. If you can get Rufus's Fury, definitely get it because it does have demo. Like I said before, any strand weapon will work. You just definitely want to make sure you have Hatchling because you want to spam Threadlings everywhere. Quicksilver will work, but you just won't have as much Threadlings. Now for your special and heavy, this is up to you. Just go with whatever is in the current DPS meta. I personally do like to run a Nessa's Oblation because it does come with a perk Harmonic Resonance, so this will synergize with Rufus's Fury. But obviously, if you're not running Rufus's Fury, you don't really have to run this, but your special and heavy is up to you. Just make sure you have a strand primary with Hatchling. But let's jump into our artifact, and these this season are not the craziest thing, but they do help out a little bit with this build with things like Thanatonic Tangle. So strand weapon final blows have a chance to generate a tangle. Just like earlier, Fragment has the ability to generate a Threadling on strand weapon kills. So now we just have the ability to make a tangle, and if you can make a tangle with your weapon, it's just a little faster way again to shoot it to make those Threadlings. Pretty much everything in your strand kit already makes Threadlings, but this is just an added little benefit. There's really no reason to not slot it in. But next up, we have Communal Pickup. So when an ally destroys or picks up your Tangle or Elemental Orb, the Tangle cooldown is reduced by 5 seconds, and you gain bonus damage with weapons matching your subclass for 10 seconds. That does a lot, and this is honestly the strongest one for this build in my opinion, because if someone does destroy your Tangle, which is an integral part to this build, it will reduce it by 5 seconds and give you a bonus to your strand weapon damage for 10 seconds. This is very strong, and it really helps that playstyle of spamming Tangles everywhere again to make those Threadlings, and also spin enemies with the Wanderer buff. Now our next main one is going to be Refreshing Pickup. So picking up a Tangle or Elemental Orb grants energy to your least powered ability. Since you're going to be picking up Tangles all the time, this is just giving you some added energy in the background. This is extremely nice to constantly get that rift back charged up a lot, again, to proc Weaver's Call. You don't really need to worry about your grenade energy because you already get enough with that, but this really does help out with getting those rifts back. Now, next up, we have elemental munitions. So combatant final blows with tangles or elemental orbs have a chance to drop special or heavy ammo. This is nice, again, because you're going to be killing a lot of enemies with tangles with this build, so now you just can generate special and heavy ammo. This does proc a good amount, and it is very, very noticeable if you have it equipped. Now, next up, we have Frenzied Stack. So your armor charge grants bonus damage to your thrown tangles or elemental orbs. Your armor charge now decays over time. So this is going to buff that tangle damage up so you can secure those kills to proc things like elemental munitions, which is extremely nice. And again, you're also going to be suspending enemies and making threadlings with those tangles. Now, if you want to change elemental munitions out, you could. I would recommend Monochromatic and Maestro so you can get more weapon and ability damage. Problem is right now is this does not work with Strand for some reason as of recording this and when I post it. But if this ever does get fixed, this is definitely something I recommend taking. But if you are going into more in-game content, obviously more heavy ammo is always nice. And then another we'll add one is just Elemental Fury. So while stunned, champions take bonus damage from abilities and elemental orb damage. This is just a nice one to throw in there if you don't have anything else to put. Now your champions will just take even more damage after you stun them from your Threadlings. Let's now take a look at our armor mods and talk about some further ways we're going to improve this build. And to start off, let's take a look at our helmet. We're going to be running a harmonic siphon. So rapid strand weapon final blows create orbs of power. This is going to be very strong because orbs again are going to provide you with woven mail, armor charge to give your tangles more damage, and even more ways once we get later down into these mods. So next up, we're going to have ashes to asset. So gain bonus super energy on grenade kills. This will actually proc on your Threadling grenade. Every other part of your Threadlings will not proc this, but since you're going to be spamming your Threadling grenade all the time anyway, this is just going to give you some more super energy. And again, Needle Storm is an extremely good super. And for that, I also do like to take a Dynamo, so reduce super cooldown when you're using class ability near targets. Since you can spam your Rift a lot with this build, you're going to be able to, again, to make those Threadlings. But on top of that, also give you some super energy alongside Ashes to Asset, so you can spam a lot more often. If you don't want to run Dynamo, you could take something like a heavy ammo finder just to make more heavy. That's always nice, but all of these are up to you. But Dynamo is what I've been rocking a lot, and it is very, very nice to spam those supers. Now, jumping into our arms, I do like running Harmonic Loader, so increases the reload speed of strand weapons. This is just nice so I can reload the Roof's Sphere a lot. Demo's already reloading it, but if it's ever a time I do need to mainly reload the gun, this is just really nice to keep that flow going, to keep making those Threadlings with my gun. Now, on top of that, firepower, so your grenade final blows create an orb of power. Again, your Threadling grenade will actually proc this. No other Threadlings will, but if you throw your Threadling grenade, you will make an orb on those kills, which again will provide you with armor charge, woven mail, and all those additional benefits we're about to get into. Now, bolstering detonations, the next one, so grants class ability energy when you cause damage to the grenade. This is very nice because we're going to be able to spam our class ability a lot more often now. Since we're going to throw grenades all the time, we're always going to be regenerating this class ability energy, which again is Weaver's Call, so you can make even more Threadlings. Now, for your chest piece, always go with just resistant mods. This is just the best thing you can slot in for damage reduction, and just swap these out for whatever encounter you're going into. Now, for our boots, this is where things get crazy. I'm going to be taking recuperation, so replenishes health each time you pick up an orb of power. This is very nice for your survivability. Obviously, every time you pick an orb up now, you will get woven mail, but you will also now regenerate health. So this is very, very strong for keeping you alive, and you're going to make orbs everywhere from your grenade and your strand weapon. The next up is innervation, so reduces grenade cooldown each time you pick up an orb of power. Just like recuperation, now when you pick an orb up, not only you're getting health and woven mail, you're also getting extra grenade energy. And again, your grenade can make orbs, so you're basically getting kills with your grenades, and that's feeding even more grenade energy. And obviously everyone else can make orbs, so you get even more energy from those. And finally, we have absolution, so reduces all ability cooldowns each time you pick up an orb of power. Now, I run this one because this will actually give you more bang for your buck when getting more energy, because typically if you're running double innervation, it won't actually give you as much energy as it would if you just run one absolution. But on top of that, this also does refill your class ability, since it does refill everything, and you can spam that even more often too. Then finally, on our bond, I do like to run a bomber, so reduces grenade cooldown when you're using your class ability. Since you can spam your class ability a lot, you're going to get even more grenade cooldown, and since you use your grenade a lot, you get more class ability cooldown. They work in tandem together, and you can just keep making those Threadlings over and over. Then I like to run a powerful attraction, so automatically collects nearby orbs of power when you activate your class ability. This one's not a must-have. You can run pretty much anything else, but since you're going to make orbs everywhere, this is extremely nice because again, you will get armor armor charge. On top of that, you will heal. And then finally, I like to run a utility kickstart. So when your class ability energy is fully expended, you gain class ability energy. Additionally, your armor charge is consumed and you gain additional class ability energy for each stack. So essentially now every time I place a rift, I'm going to be getting around half of it back if I do have 3 armor charges, which again will be pretty much all the time. And when I place that rift down, I will collect those orbs, which will pretty much instantly refill utility kickstart at max level, and you could just spam your rift just like your grenade. So overall, as a recap, you're going to have 4 different ways to make Threadlings. Those Threadlings are going to do a lot of damage, and they will also be able to unravel targets. Your Tangles alongside making Threadlings will also be able to suspend enemies now, make ammo for you now, do a lot of damage, and even provide you with a damage boost if someone does shoot your Tangle. You're going to be pretty much unkillable with infinite woven mail and the ability to always generate health every time you pick up an orb. And like I said earlier, the cherry on top of all that is the fact that it's wrapped up with an extremely strong super that can do a ton of damage. This is a build I highly recommend you all give a shot with the most recent buffs. It is very fun to play, and is what I've been rocking the entire time since the season has launched. But like I do at the end of all my build videos, if you were curious about the transmog, this is what I'm running. I went for a witch doctor theme since I'm calling this the witch doctor build, since I'm trying to get nothing but companions to do my damage. I think it actually looks pretty sick in my opinion. You kind of have like Threadlings-esque on your side, and then I use the new helmet from the new seasonal activity. I think it looks really, really cool. And if you want to make your Warlock look like this, just be sure to copy this down. But all right, I think that is going to do it all for me. Let me know what you all think about this build down below. Have you tried Threadlings out? Have you been running a build like this in the past? I know if you have, you are eating good right now because it is a ton of fun. It is extremely good. And just again, seeing your whole screen turn green and just everything flying around you, it is just a blast. Anyways, though, I really hope you all give this build a try, and I hope you all enjoy. Thank you all so much for watching this one, and have a great day. Peace.